Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to talk about 5 different foods that help to increase your digestion power and 3 that actually help to break it down. You're gonna definitely wanna listen to all of these 8 suggestions to help give you the most power for good digestion and to also get you set up for strong gut health so that you're able to absorb the nutrients that you want to absorb, have less inflammation and less pain, and also to just be able to operate physically, mentally, and emotionally and energetically much more vibrantly and with a lot more strength and power. All right, so the first 5, number 1, beetroot. I love beetroot because of the power that it has to help support the gut overall. Now, one little warning I do want to put here before I even go into this is if you have an intolerance to oxalates, make sure that you skip this one and you go right to number 2 because beets are very high in oxalates and that could actually flare you up more if you do have an issue with it. However, if you do not and you're able to tolerate beets and tolerate oxalates, then go for it because beets are amazing for a multitude of reasons. The 2 that I want to highlight is number 1, it is high in fiber. Beetroot is super high in insoluble and soluble fiber. And why that's so important is because it helps to, number 1, move things along. So you're eliminating out the waste and you're pushing everything out of the bowel and out of the intestines, getting rid of anything that could potentially clog up and cause more toxins or more digestive distress. Number 2 of why that's so important, the fiber is because the good bacteria in your gut microbiome actually feeds off of fiber. It is like a food to it. That's why prebiotic fibers are so important for good, strong gut health because the body actually feeds off it. The good bacteria, the bacteria that you want in your gut feeds off of that. So getting enough fiber through the beetroot, that's one reason. But the other big part to this is the betalain. The betalain that is in the beetroot. That's what gives it the red pigment. But why that's so powerful is because it helps with decreasing inflammation. When our bodies are inflamed, when our guts are inflamed, that's when we can start to have a lot of problems with the gut health. We can have breaking down of the gut lining or just things not functioning the way that it's supposed to function. Bloating, pain, discomfort, all of the things. So making sure that you're getting foods in that's going to help to balance out the body, balance out your gut, keep things moving along, and also decrease inflammation is going to be really powerful. And that's why beetroots are so darn powerful for gut health. Now, talking about that inflammation, let's go into number 2 of foods that are going to boost your gut. Number 2 is ginger. I love ginger in all forms. Ginger is amazing in order to help to decrease inflammation in the body. And it is such a strong, powerful piece to add in to help to support your gut health as well. Not only that, but it's also super powerful for helping with any kind of nausea issues and also helping to boost up the immune system and keep your body nice and protected. So get more ginger root into your meals, maybe drinking a ginger tea or eating a low sugar ginger candy or chew is also something to do every so often, but you want to make sure you're not getting a lot of extra sugar in, and you'll find out why soon as we start to talk about the foods that don't support your gut, but we're not there yet. Moving on to number 3. Number 3 in foods that help to support your gut is dark leafy greens. Dark leafy greens are powerful again because of the inflammation, but also because of the fiber. It's a lot like the same reasons for the beetroot. The dark leafy greens are going to supply you with tons of minerals and vitamins that are going to help to keep your body strong, but because of the chlorophyll and the power of the green foods, you're going to have less inflammation in the body, and the fiber is going to help to clear you out, to clean you out, and to also help to support in a food source for the good bacteria in your gut. Moving on to number 4. Number 4 is getting more water. Water is super important for digestion, and I feel like so many people forget how important it is, because sometimes when you're all digestively backed up, you might just need a little bit of water and hydration. And that is for 2 main reasons. Number 1, water helps to break down the food as you are trying to digest it. So staying hydrated and drinking water throughout the day is going to break down the foods so that your body does not have to work so hard to try to break it down. The other piece to this, though, is it also helps to soften the stools so that constipation is not quite as much of a problem potentially, and it's just helping to push things through so that you don't get backed up and you don't start to have a lot of constipation or a lot of bowel issues because there's not enough hydration to keep things loose, to keep things soft, and to keep things moving. And then finally, number 5, and I feel like this one gets talked about so much, but I'm going to highlight it anyway because it's so important, but that's getting more fermented foods. Fermented foods are going to help to build the good gut bacteria. It's going to help to repopulate your gut microbiome if you are in a state of dysbiosis, which is when there's too much bad bacteria overriding the good bacteria. We need to get that good bacteria population up nice and strong so that your body, your gut is able to do what it needs to do. One way of doing that is fermented foods. So you could do something like a fermented kefir or a kimchi, sauerkraut, kombucha, yogurts that are actually fermented, that are not broken down. Make sure that you get a really good quality yogurt. That's going to be really important here. Or any other kind of fermented vegetables. Fermented foods are such a great source of good probiotics and good bacteria. But if you find it really hard to eat regularly fermented foods, like most times a week, most days a week, then get yourself onto a probiotic, a really strong probiotic. I love Thrive probiotics. However, depending on your situation, depending on what kind of bacteria is not very built up and very strong, you might need a different kind. So maybe you want to play around with a really good quality probiotic in addition to adding in some of those fermented foods. All right, let's talk about the 3 foods that are not super healthy for strong gut health. Number 1, and I already kind of mentioned this one, but sugar. Sugar breaks down the gut. It really breaks down the body. And in my mind, just a regular cane sugar that's processed and there's not a lot of nutritional value there, honestly, I feel like it's kind of a toxin to the body too. Sugar breaks down the gut, and it can create problems like leaky gut and blood sugar imbalances. So making sure that you keep that sugar to a minimum, cutting that out as much as possible, is also going to help to decrease brain fog, decrease inflammation in the body, and it's going to help to stabilize your mood, your mental and your emotional state. All of this stuff is so super important, but it really starts right there at the gut. So get rid of the sugar because it's not doing your gut any good. There are healthy alternatives. You can use a stevia, a monk fruit, maple syrup, some raw honey, even some coconut sugar, and using those as a replacement to some of the processed white sugars that maybe you're used to using. Number 2 in foods that break down the gut is alcohol. Alcohol, there can be some health benefits, right? I actually am going to talk about that in an article that's coming out not too long from now. But the problem with alcohol is a lot of people don't know how to balance it. You can get some healthy properties from alcohol, but alcohol is alcohol, and it still has a negative effect on the body when drunk in consumption, when drunk in overconsumption. Knowing when just a little bit is enough, and knowing when a little bit is even too much, can make or break your health. So in the grand scheme of it, it's okay to have it every once in a while if you don't have an addictive issue or a health issue that's preventing from that. If you don't have any of those other kind of factors that would be a really negative addition for having alcohol in your life. I'm not sitting here promoting it, but it could be healthy when used in the right way, but why chance it if you're not quite sure what that looks like? So getting alcohol out is going to help to also support your gut by keeping your gut health nice and strong, and also making sure that you're keeping and limiting toxins in the body, but also decreasing the amount of work that your liver has to do to filter that out in the first place. And number 3, conventional dairy. I talk about this all the time with my clients, but conventional dairy is very damaging to the gut because when it's pasteurized, it has taken out all of the good stuff that your gut uses to break it down properly, and that can actually have some healing properties. Now, dairy is kind of a double-edged sword because conventional dairy is not healthy for the gut. It's not really that healthy for the body. It can increase inflammation, and the whole thing with calcium and osteoporosis and all of that jazz, conventional dairy is not helping with that per se. There's other ways to get that. However, there are ways to still enjoy dairy in a healthy way. So number 1, you can do some raw organic dairies that are going to help to provide you with the enzymes and the nutrients and the cultures that are going to fulfill your body, create more absorption of the dairy itself, and to also bring more health to you. The other piece is looking for dairies that are grass-fed, because conventional dairies are very high in omega-6 fatty acids. And that's primarily because of the kind of grain that the cows and the goats and the sheep are fed. It is primarily because of any kind of antibiotics or any kind of non-organic material that they may encounter and ingest. But when you eat grass-fed dairy, now you're getting a different source of dairy. You're getting a source that is way more nutrient dense and also supportive for your physical being. And that's because grass-fed is high in omega-3s, higher in omega-3 fatty acids, because the animals are grazing on grass and bugs and what they're meant to graze on. But if you can find a grass-fed that is organically raised, meaning that they don't use pesticides and herbicides and other chemicals sprayed on their grass and their lawns, if you can find a grass-fed that is 100% or as grass-fed as possible, even up to 95%, that's going to be way more powerful as well, because they are living a life and eating fully and completely grass-fed. that makes a big difference on how your gut responds. So, cutting out the conventional dairy, and if you still want to do dairy, doing either raw dairies or looking for grass-fed dairies are going to be a much better alternative. If you liked what you heard today and you thought it was valuable having those 5 foods that can boost your digestion and then those 3 foods that actually break it down, then hit the subscribe button and follow me for weekly content and weekly videos to help you humming along in your energy, in your health, and in your vitality.